Hey, what's up? My name's Justin. Welcome to 65 Drums. Today, I'm just going to answer a very simple question that I don't know the answer to yet, so today's going to be sort of like a test video. What's quieter if you have a converted acoustic drum set? So you got the trigger inside here, you got the mesh head, but what do you do about the bottom resonant head? Is it, quieter to have an acoustic head on it? Like, how loud is that? Like, can you get away with it? Or should you just leave it open? Or should you put a second mesh head on the bottom? What will be the volume differences between all those different things? In this video, what I'm just gonna simply do is try all of them and see which one's the loudest and which one's the quietest. And of course, in addition to doing the test, I'm gonna be using a sound meter and just using my ears, because sometimes sound meters don't really tell the full story. You kinda gotta hear it in person. So let's see what happens. Okay, so the results were in, and I was honestly pretty surprised at what I found. I actually did all the tests pretty much twice on 2 days. You saw the footage from yesterday, and then I posted a version of today's video over to Patreon, and it was suggested to me that I should try putting a mesh head on top, bottom, and then putting a blanket in between and seeing how that would affect the overall volume. I tested that, and that person was right. This is the absolute quietest way you can go with having mesh head on top, bottom with a blanket in between. But the thing I was surprised about was the fact that nothing really drastically changed the overall volume. Now, just having the acoustic resonant head was the loudest. I tested everything with a meter, like I said. It was about 2.5 feet away from the drum at all times, and everything changed maybe a decibel or two from all the different methods I was trying. The loudest two ways to go about it was using no resonant head or using an acoustic resonant head. Those were the loudest options. The quietest options were just using like a mesh head and a blanket, or just the acoustic head and a blanket. And all those were kind of similar. This one just edged everything out just a tiny little bit. But overall volume was pretty constant, even with the loudest thing, which was this. This was only maybe a few decibels louder than everything else. If you're looking for a way to get your acoustic drums, well, now your conversion drums, if you're looking for a way to keep your conversion drums as quiet as possible, another thing you can do is just go buy a rubber rim. The two main competitors that you're gonna find on like eBay is probably the Pintech rubber rim and the UFO Drums rubber rim. The Pintech rims, they're probably a little bit quieter, but the problem is there's so much rubber here that it changes the feel when you're drumming on it. And so I don't really recommend these. At first you like them and then you start to not like them as much. That's just my personal preference. The UFO Drums rubber rim, there's not as much rubber there, so it is a tad louder, But the good news is it keeps the feel of your acoustic drum set. So I would personally go with that in between those two. Unfortunately, rubber rims are just overly expensive. You can cheap out and go buy some like rubber fuel line hose. I've done a dedicated video of that and also a dedicated video comparing the UFO Drums rubber rim versus the Pintech rubber rim. I'll try to link those in the description below if I remember to do that. But if you buy some fuel line hose, you can sort of like take a knife and cut just a notch through it, and you can use that as a rim. It's really, really cheap, and it does the job for a while, but it eventually curls off of your drum rim. So I wouldn't cheap out on it. I would just go buy a specifically made rubber rim for your electronic drums. Now, question of the day. What's the number one thing that you've personally found that helps lower the volume of your electronic drums at home? Let me know down in the comments below. I'm really interested to read all of your responses. Big shout out to today's Patreon supporter, Annie Panda. Thank you so much for helping support 65 Drums over on Patreon. I really do appreciate it. Have an amazing day. See you in a few.